So we are going to talk all about making minimalism realistic for you, which is really what I'm passionate about in general, because when I first learned about minimalism, it seemed really great, and my husband and I were all about it, and we dove in right away. But also, I started to find it really stressful and unrealistic pretty quickly. So, with that said, I I was either going to quit or find a way to make it personalized to me. And I'm glad that that's the route that I took. Just kind of saying, like, this isn't about perfection. This isn't about making it look one certain way. It's about making it work for my own life. And so now that's what I'm passionate about. And that's why I have a podcast called Minimalish, because it's about making it work for you. It's about making room for what matters in your life and making it work for you. So that's what we're talking about today. And I've got 3 kind of steps to doing that in this lesson today. And then I also have some just action steps that you can take after this lesson. All right, so just quickly, who am I? I am a mom and a wife. My daughter is 2 years old. She's super sweet. It's been interesting having a toddler and being a first-time mom to a toddler. It's been fun. And then I'm also a former English teacher. So I do have a passion for teaching, but I left that profession to stay at home with my daughter. And I kind of dove into some creative endeavors in the process, and that's where my podcast came about. So now I kind of teach. I mean, I mostly just have conversations with really amazing people, but I also found a way to teach through an online course that I created, and I am excited about that. So I am the host of that podcast, and I kind of said this a little bit at the beginning, but my husband and I, we were new parents, and there were a lot of things that were overwhelming about that, as is true for everyone, I feel like, who's a new parent. But there were a lot of things that were overwhelming about that, and I was diagnosed with postpartum anxiety, and what I realized was that I struggled with anxiety all of my life, and I think a lot of it stemmed from, a lot of it is a real thing that I still struggle with, but a lot of it stemmed from the physical stuff that was just surrounding my house, or surrounding me in my house all the time. It was just like an excess of physical stuff, an excess of clutter. And I'm sure you might be able to relate to that feeling of when there's just so much piling up around you and you just don't know where to start. You don't even know where to start. And it just kind of steals your peace. I didn't want to believe that that was the case. I lived with clutter all of my life. I've always been a pretty, untidy, I guess, messy person in a way. And so I didn't think it was bothering me, but I found pretty quickly that it was. And my husband and I discovered the Minimalist documentary. It was just kind of a random discovery on Netflix. We watched it together, and we were convinced, basically. It's a very convincing documentary. So if you need to convince anyone of this, including yourself, go watch it. But we were convinced, and we just dove in. And then, like I said at the beginning of this, I quickly realized that it was life-changing in the way that it lifted a lot of weights off of me to have less stuff surrounding me. But at the same time, it started to feel like a lot of pressure. Like once we were 6 months or so into it, I started to feel a lot of pressure, and I just was no longer able to feel like it was working for me. So I had to find a way to make it work for me. And if not, I wasn't going to be able to continue. Okay, so let's talk about the vision for your home. And give me 1 second. I'm having one little technical issue. 1 second. Sorry about this. Okay, sorry about that. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to talk about how to kind of get started with all of this. And the best way that I found is to just have a vision for your home. So it's really that simple of just thinking about what your home is like right now, and thinking about what is like what's wrong with the picture, basically. I'm not saying like your home is wrong, but what is the problem? What problems are you encountering right now? What is causing you to struggle and maybe feel burdened by your home every day? And then I want you to think of a vision for what you would like your home to look like. Like if you're diving into decluttering right now, what would you like your home to look like if you could finish that decluttering? If you could get past all the stuff and start to let go of it, what would you like it to look like? What is that vision? And my encouragement is don't make it like Pinterest perfect. Don't make this a Pinterest perfect vision. This is a realistic vision for your home. So keep that in mind as we move forward. And we are going to dive into 3 different steps today. And those, I created a little acronym because I do that, I guess. And the acronym is MRS. So MRS. So the first one is we're focusing on the R word here, or we're focusing on the M word here. So motivation. The first step is to find a deeply rooted motivation that's going to compel you through this thing. Because when it comes down to it, decluttering is pretty tough. I mean, it's not the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life, but it can be a struggle. And it can get hard, and there can be some emotional stuff that comes up, and there can be a lot of questions of like, what do I get rid of? What do I keep? So with that said, let's talk about how do we deeply root our motivation. The first part of that is to have a why. And I talk about that all the time, but so do a lot of other people, because a why is just something that you could probably apply to like every area of your life. Like, why are you doing that? And it's a good question to ask yourself, to kind of start to think about your motivations and things and root your motivations deeper. So this can apply to every area of your life. But when it comes to minimalism, what is your why for this lifestyle change? Because it is a big lifestyle change. At least I know for us, it was a big lifestyle change. I went from kind of being an impulse shopper and filling up my cart on Amazon all the time to having to really shift my mindset to figure out, how do I stop doing that? So what does that look like for you? Why is it that you want to do this lifestyle change? And if you're in the challenge, then this is something that you might have already done, hopefully at the beginning of the challenge. And a lot of you sent your whys to me, and it was so great to read them. I loved reading through all of them. And I just am really grateful that so many of you shared them with me. But I want you to think about that. Just keep that with you. So if you've already written it down somewhere, keep it with you, because having a deeply rooted motivation is super important. And it's really the first step, is to just determine, like, why am I doing this? Because if you just start, you're going to burn out quickly. It can be tough to do, especially if you have a lot of stuff and a lot of clutter to dig through. The second part of having deeply rooted motivation goes back to what we just did before, like on the slide before this, and that is visualization. It's not just about having a vision for your entire home, but going through visualization exercises room by room by room. This has really helped me deeply root my motivation as I'm going through. So it kind of gives me, it almost, for me and for the others who have done this, that I've helped guide through this, I feel like it recalibrates you. For each new room that you're looking at, it gives you a pause, basically. So what I'm asking you to do is pause before you start decluttering a room and visualize, like, close your eyes. What could this room look like with the resources that you already have, but with less? So what could this room look like? And with that said, again, not Pinterest perfect, but like, when you let go of the piles and whatever other clutter, what do you want this room to be about? What do you want it to be used for? What feeling do you want to have when you enter this room? And what then do you want it to look like? So those are basically my top 2 ways to root your motivation deeply with actually getting started with minimalism. And then when it comes to personalizing it and making it work for you, that's when we get to the R. And it's all about having a realistic and respectful perspective. So there's 2 R's here. And this works for kind of our own definition of minimalism, but also in how we interact with the people around us. So that's the people in our own home and the people who we interact with every single day. So the first word, realistic, is more about us. And when it comes to a realistic perspective, it's just about being realistic about what this lifestyle is going to look like for you. Because once you start decluttering, and even after you've decluttered your home, like if you haven't decluttered your home yet, think forward. Okay, pretend your home is decluttered. You've went through all of this hard work. What is realistic for you? What does minimalism look like for you now after you've decluttered your home? Or what does it look like for you to just like live with less so that you're making room for what matters in your life? What does your home look like? Is it perfectly tidy all the time? Because the vision of minimalism that can be present on social media, I mean, there's definitely realistic minimalism out there. But the vision that can be seen, if you look up minimalism on an Instagram hashtag, you're going to see those whitewashed walls, and you're going to see, the perfectly tidy homes and tons of pictures of really tidy spaces with, cleared off surfaces. And that's all you're going to see. You're not going to see when that space is a little bit messy because a child just was playing in there and left their toys behind. So what does it actually look like? Because if you're being realistic, then it's a goal that's worth working towards. But if you have this vision that is Pinterest perfect, Instagram perfect, then it's not going to last. It's not going to make this happen for you. So it's about a realistic perspective and literally just defining it for yourself. And we're going to talk about that again in a minute. When it comes to respect, this is so important because I think the biggest roadblock, at least in my opinion, I think the biggest roadblock with minimalism is our people. Because not all the time are you going to have a spouse on board right away. And not all the time are your kids just going to be okay with letting go of whatever clutter belongs to them. I mean, you can debatably say who it belongs to, but when it comes down to it, they might be attached to their toys. And that's something we talked about in the challenge. And a lot of people had so many good ideas with how they've worked with their kids on that. But what I lean towards every single time is respect. So I wanted that to be a main point here, because if minimalism is going to cause conflict in relationships with the people you care about, the people in your own home or the people outside of your home that maybe bring gifts to your kids, like grandparents or anything like that, then I don't want to say you're doing it wrong necessarily, but I think it's not serving its purpose well. Minimalism isn't serving its purpose well in your life if that's the case. That's not to say that there isn't going to be some friction and maybe a hard conversation that you have to talk to your parents about what minimalism is, and maybe can we do experience gifts for the kids instead of toys. It's not to say there can't be hard but respectful conversations, but it is to say that let's focus on our own change. So as we're beginning, or even as we are into this thing, we can have conversations, respectful conversations, talk to our people who maybe aren't on board yet about why this is a good thing and why it's been a good thing for us, but more so model it in your life. So focus on your own change, focus on your own stuff. If it's hard to get other people in your home to let their stuff go, do your best with what you can make decisions about without upsetting other people within your home. Because when it comes down to it, minimalism, at least my definition, is making room for what matters. So living with less stuff so that you have room for what matters. If living with less stuff is causing strife with the people around you, then it's not really helping you make room for what matters. So start with your own stuff. Start with your own lifestyle change in general and your own mindset shifts, because minimalism is more than just your stuff, and we're about to go there. But start with you and be respectful of the other people who are living in your home, or the other people that might sometimes bring stuff into your home. Okay, a couple questions kind of to relate to that point is just to ask yourself, and this is a really simple question, but it might take a little bit of reflecting and maybe some journaling even, which I highly encourage to come up with the answers. What will minimalism realistically look like for your family? And this is going to depend on, is your spouse on board right now or not? And you can look to the future, like what would it look like if they were on board? What does it look like now if they're not? What does it look like for your family in the middle of the day, even after you've decluttered? For us, you could walk into my house in the middle of the day and see toys scattered on the floor. And it's not like piles that are unmanageable, but it looks kind of like a mess. You can walk in and see dishes in the sink, but it's manageable. And that's what is realistic minimalism for me, means I can tidy up my home in 15 minutes and not have to worry about it anymore, so that I can focus on what matters. And then the next question, what is your goal with this lifestyle change? So kind of goes back to that why question, but just what is your goal? Like what do you want? Not that it's an end result, because I think it evolves as your seasons change, but what's your goal, at least right now in this season with this lifestyle change? What's your goal for your home to look like? Or what's your goal for this to make a change for your family? And the S in my MRS Mrs. acronym is to shift your mindset, which this is my favorite topic. This is kind of similar to what we talked about today in the challenge, which was talking about minimalism for our days, but this is actually going a little step further, a little step deeper, and that is shifting our mindset. That is the last step to me. I mean, not that there aren't other things that could go into this, but to me, this is the third step to really making minimalism work for you, for your family, making it realistic for you, is to just take it deeper. Like just make this change deeper in your life, because it's not just about the stuff. And when it comes down to it, I still like stuff, but it's about making the mindset shift that stuff does not fulfill me. Stuff does not define me. And, stuff is not my identity. My identity is not tied to physical objects and, fancy things. So that's the main mindset shift that I think happens with minimalism, is this mindset of enough, and this mindset of tying our identity to something deeper than physical, inanimate objects, stuff. So shifting your mindset is going to make this a lasting change. At least for me, this made it a lasting change for me, because I realized that this is something that actually matters. This is something that is actually life-changing, because decluttering is life-changing and it does matter, but also decluttering on its own, it's kind of just like a to-do list. It's like or another item on your to-do list. It's another task. Yes, it's important. It's something that is beneficial to your family, but why are you doing it? And this is why, because we don't need that stuff to make us happy. We don't need stuff to live a joyful life. It actually can take away from our joy, because we are putting too much worth in our stuff, and we're putting too much joy in something that can't bring us lasting joy. So shifting your mindset is all about just shifting where we find joy, where we find our worth and identity. And I can't tell you where that is for you, because there's a million different ways that you can do that. For me, it's in my faith, first and foremost. And then second, it's in just people and love and togetherness. So that's what it looks like for me, just to give you a tangible idea. And, for you, that you have to define that for yourself. A couple of actual specific mindset shifts that I've kind of uncovered with minimalism. When I first really thought of making minimalism deeper than decluttering and, making it actually last for me, I came up with these concepts, this concept of the heart of minimalism. Like, what is the deeper stuff there? And what I came up with, once I was thinking through it, was one is gratitude for what you already have and for the good things in your life. Two is enough. So shifting what enough means. And that can look so many ways, but shifting what it means to have enough in your home, like what is enough, like enough food, enough, clothes, enough physical items. And then shifting the shifting your thoughts to, instead of tying your identity to some kind of physical object that won't fulfill you, reminding yourself that you are enough. So I go a lot deeper into that on the podcast, and I don't have a ton of time here because I don't want this live call to like take forever. I've been on so many webinars and live calls that are just forever long, and not that they're not great, but that's just not my style. So we're going to keep this short. So I'm not going to dive into all of that. This is just kind of like skimming the surface and giving you an idea of what steps to take to make this work for you. But if you do want a deeper dive into these concepts of gratitude and enough, there's early podcast episodes on that. There's more recent podcast episodes on that. And my online course, which I will talk about super briefly, dives into that as well in the last module. So combat these lies that stuff is going to make us more enough or make us more worthy. Combat these lies of consumerism with mindset shifts. Like I said, that mindset shift of gratitude, of redefining enough. And the last one, which I don't think I said yet, is contentment. So these are at the heart of minimalism, and contentment is another thing I've made deep dives into on the podcast. So you can definitely find it there. All right, so some simple next steps, like where to take it from this point, is one, make an action plan. And I think I talked about this in the challenge with when it comes to decluttering, or maybe it was a live video. When it comes to decluttering, it can get super overwhelming because we just like start somewhere. Maybe you felt like there was a perfect place to start and you thought about it and you researched it and then you started, and then you quickly became overwhelmed because you don't know where to go next, or you feel like you have to find the perfect progression of what to do next. So my encouragement to you is to make an action plan, but not anyone else's action plan, literally like just your own. What would make sense? Like think about it for a little bit. What's a natural progression to go through your home? For us, just to give you a quick idea, we started in our kitchen just because we were making dinner that day at that time. We were like, let's just start here in our pantry. But then we didn't go through the whole kitchen because the kitchen felt like an overwhelming place to start. We actually moved to our closets, which ended up being a pretty overwhelming place to start. And in the process of that, we went to our bedroom. But our action plan was just simply to tackle the bottom floor first. And since we had two people doing it together, we kind of divided and conquered. And our home was open concept, so it kind of made sense that way. But basically, you could just list out all the rooms in your house and put a date to each one, or put a week to each one, because it might take more than one day depending on how much time you have and how much stuff you have. But make an action plan. Make it a priority. Like, if you want to do this, if you want to declutter your home, you can't just think of it as a good idea and think, okay, I'll get to it someday. Like, you have to make this a priority in your life. And remember that, at least with decluttering, like minimalism is a life shift. It's a mindset shift that is really life-changing. But with decluttering in itself, which is really the first step into it, I think for most of us, that's the first step into minimalism. It's a short-term thing. Decluttering is a short-term thing, so make it a priority for now. Make a realistic goal of how long it might take you, how long you want to spend on it, but make it a priority. And then find accountability. So if you have someone in your home, like a spouse or whoever else that is in this with you, then obviously that's like the most helpful form because they're helping you with it. But that's not realistic for everyone. So can you find accountability somewhere else? One place to find that, as you have seen, is the challenge that we did together was a really good place to start with accountability. It gives me at least so much more momentum when I see other people doing it at the same time as me. And I hope that if you did the challenge that you felt that too. And another place, just within the Facebook group, you can do that. Or even through Instagram, I'm sure you could find someone to be accountable. If you have a friend or someone you know in real life, obviously that is a fun way to do it as well. And it doesn't mean that person is decluttering in your home, by the way. It just means like you have someone to talk to about this stuff, which is a huge motivator. It makes you feel like you're less alone in it. And then the next simple step I think that you could take is to create a gratitude practice, because this is going to help start that mindset shift, which I know that a lot of times I talk about it in a progression. Like, it's first it's your stuff, then it's your days, then it's your mindset, but it's not really a progression. It like can all happen at once, or at least it's happening at the same time, if that makes sense. Basically, I think while decluttering, your mindset might start to shift. And as that mindset shift happens, it's easier to let go of more stuff. So just consciously creating a gratitude practice is going to jumpstart that mindset shift as you open your eyes to the good around you. And a simple way to start a gratitude practice is literally just make a list of 3 things, 3 specific things you're grateful for in that day. Or the day before. If you do it in the morning, it might be for the day before. If you do it in the evening, it might be for that day. And I think that's just one of the easiest ways to really start those mindset shifts. And that will honestly make it easier to let go of things when you're realizing that the stuff you're really grateful for isn't like, the extra utensils that you don't use in your kitchen, or the big piles of toys that your kids no longer touch. Like, that's not the stuff that you're putting down as grateful for. That's not the stuff that really matters. And once that mindset shift starts to happen, it's going to be easier to let go of it. Okay, so let me talk about my online course, because it's really a great way to find accountability. If you liked what was happening in the challenge, then you will love what's happening in Make Room if you want continued guidance in this lifestyle change. So the thing with Make Room is that, at least, I've done research because I wanted to make an online course, because I'm a former teacher, because I love teaching. I thought I didn't love teaching in middle school, but I love teaching. I thought to myself, I want to make sure that this is something different than what a million other people might be doing, because a lot of other people are doing great things and teaching minimalism in great ways. So I decided I wanted to put all of these, like, basically this 3-step progression of your stuff, your days, and your mindset. I wanted to put that progression into one course. It's not just about decluttering. But then I wanted to take it a step further, and I wanted this to be something that is like living and breathing. It is something that I am present in. I am cheering you on through it, literally in an accountability group, which is held through Facebook, just like the challenge was, but it's a separate Facebook group just for students, and through live calls like this one. The live calls like this one, they are focused in the course on specific topics that make sense with the material we go through that week, but they're also focused on question and answer, and that's a big part of it. So that's what Make Room really is. It's 4 modules. The first 2 are on decluttering, because decluttering it is an important step into minimalism. And the first one is about setting yourself up to declutter. The second one is about actually the step-by-step, what do I do in this room, and how can I tackle the bigger spaces like the garage and the basement? How can I tackle spaces like the kitchen? So it's literally going step by step like that. But then the third module is all about your days, and it helps you make routines in your life that are going to help streamline things and are going to just help you actually create the days that you absolutely love to be living. That doesn't mean they're perfect. It just means that, from the day to day, you're experiencing joy and you have time for what matters to you. And then the third module is just about those mindset shifts. So it just goes through the mindset shifts of gratitude and contentment and enough. And it goes deeper into this idea of choosing joy, and it talks about minimalism and your people and how that affects our relationships. So that's what it is. And the most important part that I want to stress is it's really about like those lessons in those modules. There's like 30 plus video lessons. Those are all going to be yours. You get that lifetime access to them. But to me, my favorite part of it is just that I get to cheer you on so personally through it. And I think that's what sets it apart from a lot of other online courses in general, whether they're about whoever knows what that online course might be about, is that I'm present in it. And I know some courses are like that and some aren't. And I've taken some courses in the past on totally different subjects that are just completely automated, and there's really no instructor there other than in videos. And to me, that felt like this is not a course. Like, there's really no teacher that's talking to me about this stuff other than on a video. And so I want this to be an actual course. Like, I am teaching through it, but also we're all leaning on each other. And that's what was so amazing about the first time I did this, is that there's just so many different women from different life phases helping each other through this and sharing perspectives. So it's just a great place to find that accountability piece and really make this lifestyle change work for you. If you're interested, if you want to see testimonials and all that, I'm not putting that all in here. I'm not spending time on that here, but you can see that on the landing page, and you can get there by just going to DesireeEndries.com/makeroom if that is of interest to you. If there are any questions, then, if you have any questions at all about anything, you can ask them now. You can email me. I'll pause for a couple seconds if you guys do have any questions in general. And I don't have the chat in front of me, but okay. All right. Well, if you hopped onto this late, there are a couple people that hopped in and out as we are going through it, but I am going to send this out to everyone in the challenge and make sure that you all have access to it. So if you have any questions or anything comes up about the course or anything I said in this lesson, then definitely ask me. I'm in the Facebook group as much as possible during this challenge. There's just like so much happening in the challenge, and I love it so much. There's so many people in it. There's over 200 people in the challenge now. So I can't possibly respond to every single thing because I am a one-person team. And that's where the course, I respond to everything, everything that I'm able to help with in the course. And unless someone else gets to it first, that's where I'm really present, because it's a smaller group, and I keep it smaller for that reason. So I'm excited about it. We're doing it in October. If anybody wants to jump into it, definitely do. I am so excited to see what that group will be like, and I know it will be. I know it's going to be just as good as the last time. So I wanted to put this back up here one more time, just these simple next steps, because really, I also want to stress that, like, you are capable of doing this. All right, that is all I have. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. And yeah, I will send out one more challenge email tomorrow, and it's just going to be kind of a wrap up that I send out at the end of these challenges. So you can check for that. It definitely has a lot of like last encouragement. So check that out tomorrow. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend.